Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosky here again with another beer review for you as is usual. For this one we're going to go back to Brewdog and we're actually going to do a beer from the IPA Is Dead 2013 range again. So for my third review in this little series we're going to have a look at the Goldings one, and as I've mentioned to you before, all of these beers are single hop IPAs and they say that each of them is from a different continent. So this is the Goldings one, which comes to you from the southeast of England. So as is usual then with my beer reviews, I'll take you through a very brief history of Brewdog. It will be very short because I've done a number of these beer reviews already. I think I'm getting near 30 of Brewdog beer reviews. But as always, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, feel free to go on towards the latter part of the video and you will catch that. And as always, the brewery website's in the video description along with the link to my other Brewdog beer reviews. So anyway, Brewdog are probably these days considered the flag carrier of Scottish craft brewing, but they were founded back in 2007 by two guys, James Watt and Martin Dickey, and their first brewery was at the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast of Scotland, although more recently, I believe it was 2012, they moved to their new purpose-built facility in Ellon in Aberdeenshire as well, which is about 20 miles to the north of the city of Aberdeen, actually closer to the city of Aberdeen than Fraserburgh is in fact. So this brewery are very well known for being very experimental. You know, any style of beer you can think of, they will have done it at some point in their history, and they're largely inspired by the sort of American craft brewing renaissance, so it's really, really cool. The only downside to this brewery is they make so many great beers, but the only downside is that they do so many and you get some really, really great beer, but you will only ever see it once. That's the only real downside to Brewdog in my opinion, but you know, what can you do? But they're also famous as well for having some very strong beers. You'll probably have heard of the Tactical Nuclear Penguin, the Sink the Bismarck, and also the End of History. These beers were produced to have the title, so that the brewery would hold the title of World's Strongest Beer, and they did that on each 3 occasions that they brewed these beers. So the brewery are quite a decorated brewery in that sense as well. And I should also point out too that you can actually buy into the Brewdog brewery with their Equity for Punk scheme, and it's a really cool way that this works actually. You basically buy into the brewery, you give them so much money, and then you exchange it essentially for discount in their online shop and at their brew pubs and stuff like that, and you can buy their beers for cheaper depending on how much you've actually invested in the company. So really, really cool in that way, and that was how they actually fund a lot of their buying new equipment and moving to this new facility in Ellon and Aberdeenshire and things. They've run 3 rounds of this Equity for Punk, so keep an eye out for the next one when it does actually come around. But more recently, the thing they're mainly focusing on now is actually opening up a host of different brew pubs. They've got quite a few in Scotland now. The first one opened back in 2010 in Aberdeen, and then they expanded down to Edinburgh and Glasgow, and they've got a host of different locations throughout England now which have opened over the last couple of years. And their most recent addition to their brewpub chain was actually in Florence in Italy, or Firenze, however you want to describe it. They also have 2 bars in Sweden, 1 in Tokyo in Japan, and also one down in Sao Paulo in Brazil. So you can check out all of these, and there are sites planned for Paris, I think it was Paris, Brussels, a few in Germany, and they're also looking over at the United States for a few things as well, and they probably will look at Australia and New Zealand in the near future as well. So as I should mention as well, they also have actually opened up a bottle shop down in London, and they're planning one for Aberdeen as well apparently. So just keep an eye on the Brewdog website. As I mentioned, it's in the video description for you below, and keep an eye on their blog, and they always tell you about the new beers that are coming out and the new events that are going on at the brewery. So anyway, let's move on to this actual beer itself then. Just to tell you, as I always do with these beers, I'll just tell you a little bit about the actual hop that is in this one. This guy is a single hop IPA, as I've mentioned to you before, and in each of these series they always brew them to be 75 IBU, and the malt base in all of the single hop IPAs consists of Maris Otter, crystal malt, and also caramel, and they're all 6.7% ABV there. But the Golding hop that is in this guy, it hails from the southeast of England, and apparently these hops are also referred to as Canterbury hops, but I've never actually heard that. That was just a wee hop sort of fact file that I found on these things. But apparently the alpha acid rating on these ones is between 4.5% and 6.5%, which means they're quite low on the bittering side of things, and their beta sugars I believe were around 1.5% actually, the beta acid, sorry I should say. But apparently the aromas you'll get from this hop tend to be very citric and floral, so it's quite a sort of fresh and gardeny aromatic hop, quite commonly used in sort of English paleos if you like. But the hop itself actually apparently has quite large cones, and so it can be difficult to harvest, and it's also quite susceptible to downy mildew and also hop mosaic virus, so it's quite a difficult one to actually harvest this one. But I read on the website But this is usually more of a mild hop used in the English pale ales, like I say. But the brewery actually, they tried to just, they basically put a hell of a lot of hops in this one to show you exactly what you can get from the Goldings hops. Pardon me, but yeah, that's your sort of brief history of the Goldings hop there. I'll just read out the blurb on this one with the Brewdog beers, as I always do. It says, at Brewdog we're insanely passionate about hats, rock and roll, penguins, avoiding ghosts and hops. We bloody love hops. We felt it was time hops went solo and got their own primetime show. IPA Is Dead showcases 4 killer hop varieties from 4 different continents. The result is 4 radically different single hop IPAs, and each IPA contains the same malt backbone and is brewed to be 75 IBU and is enthusiastically kettle hopped and dry hopped with Waimea, Eldorado, Dana and East Kent Goldings hops. To appreciate the true character, flavour, power and aroma of our favourite hops, you need them in their purest undiluted form. Can you say you've ever experienced 100% pure hop awesomeness? IPA Is Dead and is brewed and bottled to do just that. So I'm stuttering a little bit at the end there. And it's just got a little thing about the thing on the side here. It says Brewdog, beer for clever humans. At Brewdog we brew uncompromised, bold and irrelevant beer with a soul and purpose. Our approach has been the same has the same contempt of the mass beer market that the old school punks had for pop culture. Brewdog is a modern day rebellion against faceless corporate bureaucracy and the bland, soulless beer that they industrially produce. Ditch the mainstream and say hello to Brewdog. So quite cool there actually. You can see it tells you a little bit about the ingredients as well. This guy seems to have been a Swedish import or something like that. But let's get it open and get on with the tasting here. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at it. It's the standard Brewdog artwork. This one's green, and as I've mentioned to you, in the IPA Is Dead series, all of these ones have different colours, and it's quite unusual because the shield is in the centre rather than on one of the sides here. And you can see they're 6.7% single hop IPA, and it's the standard white shield with white background with a blue shield on it there. I'm getting a little bit of trouble off the light actually in this video, but let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting there. As I mentioned to you, a 6.7% single hop IPA, so this one should be really nice for us to try. As you can see, a nice smoky opening there. I'm stuttering a little bit today, I don't know what's going on, but let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting here. Just sugar up the last little bit and get it out. You can smell it. This smells like really fresh actually. I can smell just a little bit of that earthy character, and that's kind of typical of English hops if you like. Just check that everything's in place. Yep, it's all good. I think my placement, I just like to keep the bottle in place when I'm making these videos. But as you can see, it's poured a really nice kind of bright ambery orange colour here. We've got about a finger, just under a finger of a nice white frothy head. If I hold this guy up to the light there, it is hazy. You can't see my fingers if I go through it there, but there's just a little bit of carbonation coming up to the top there. But it's a nice bright sort of hazy, deep amber gold colour. So let's give it a smell and see how we get on here. Just give it a little sugar. So you're getting, as I was expecting, you're getting quite a little bit of the floral and aromatic hops in there. But it's got quite a nice little bit of citrusy orange fruit as well. It is more, well, it's actually a little bit sharper than that. Maybe it's mandarins rather than oranges. I've been training my nose a little bit to pick up the fruits a bit better, because that was something I always used to struggle with a little bit. But I think that's more kind of mandarin. But you're also getting in the malt base with this one, you can pick up a bit of sweet caramel underneath, and I think the caramel is coming out a little bit sweeter in this one than it did in the other ones in this series. But you can also pick up just a little bit of that kind of typical earthy character that you get from the English hops. But yeah, you can pick up just a little bit of the bready and yeasty character in there too. But definitely a very kind of orangey citrus aroma to this guy, and it's got a nice, and as I say, you're getting a nice bit of floral character coming out too, but you've got a nice little bit of the kind of sweet caramel coming out, and there's definitely that little hint of kind of musky, earthy character that you would attribute to English hops, and you're getting some nice bready yeast in there too. But let's give it a taste and see how we get on there. As you can see, the head's kind of fading a little bit because of me sugaring it up, but let's see how we get on. Definitely very different from the Waimea and the Eldorado, which I've already tasted. You're picking up that earthy character there on the first sip. is just sitting nicely at the back of the tongue. Yeah, it's a very kind of earthy IPA. Yeah, it's got quite a nice little citrusy bite on this one. It's not as sharp as the aroma kind of would have you believe. It's quite a mild fruitiness to this one actually, but I do think it does remind me a little bit of the mandarins, like I was saying with the aroma. But I would say with this IPA, the malt base is considerably more prominent than it is in either the Waimea or the El Dorado. This is more of a malty IPA than a hoppy one, I would say. But yeah, I would say there's definitely a nice little bit of a kind of citrus bite to it, mandarins, and you are getting a little bit of that kind of floral aromatic character in there as well. As I say, it's a little bit less pronounced than the fruits actually, and in my experience the Goldings hop does tend to have quite a lot of that floral and aromatic character. Quite a few of the little brew pubs in Germany actually like to use the Goldings hop in their Helles beer to give it a kind of aromatic taste. But this one is actually quite mild on the floral side of things. It does have just a little bit of grassy character as well, but as I'm saying, the malt base is the more pronounced feature of this IPA. Yeah, I would definitely go with that. The malt is the more prominent feature, like I say, but you've got just a little bit of caramel. It almost tastes as if it's roasted a little bit, but I think that might be the kind of earthy character of the hops giving it that sort of slightly roasted character in a way. But it's a very sort of caramelly and maybe even a brown bready malt base it tastes like in this one. It's the hop. Obviously the hop is the variable in these IPAs, but this malt base tastes as if it's a little bit more earthy, and I think that's just due to the earthy character of the hops coming out in this one. They come out in the later part of the beer. But yeah, on the opening, the front of the tongue, you're getting that nice orangey citrus, mandarin citrus flavour kind of sitting on the front of the tongue. Then the flavours in the back of the tongue with the earthy character and stuff are coming out a little bit later in the beer. But it's definitely, it tastes very fresh, which is the thing. Even though it has that earthy character, it does taste like a very, very fresh beer. It's really nice actually. I do actually quite like it when the beers have a little bit of an earthy character to them, and it's a very different take on an IPA from a lot of the ones you'll find on the market these days. But in terms of the mouthfeel with this one, definitely light to mid-bodied. It's actually, the earthy character helps bring out a little bit of the alcohol warmth in this one in my opinion. The carbonation is very light, it is very smooth and slightly oily I would say. And it is fairly easy drinking. This is a fairly sessionable one, even though it is a little bit heavier on the alcohol content than some of the other IPAs you'll get. But it's a very, very easy drinking beer I think, and it's got a nice... The aromatic character to it does give it a nice little bit of freshness. But overall, it's a very nice IPA, and it's one that's a little bit different from many that you'll find on the market, I would say. But one thing I would say is that I do feel that it needs a little bit. It would need to be just a little bit more balanced to bring out the sort of aromatic and floral character a bit better from that Goldings hop. Maybe they've hopped it a little bit too much. I'm not quite sure, but it could. In my experience, the German Helles beers are very good at bringing out the sort of floral and aromatic character that you get from this Goldings hop, but this beer doesn't quite do that so well. That said, it's a very, very nice IPA. It's a minor point, but I think it's one of the key features of this hop that's maybe just been missed out a little bit slightly, so perhaps it could be just a little bit better balanced. But you know, I do like this beer, don't get me wrong on that. That's just a very, very minor point and observation from my kind of experience in beer drinking, but it's a very, very nice beer like I say, and if you do get the chance, give it a try, because as I say, it's quite a unique IPA in that sense. And check out the IPA Is Dead range from Brewdog as always. So I hope you found my beer review informative here and I've not been rambling away to you. And please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it. Your thoughts on the actual hops for these as well might be quite interesting to hear too, so let me know that. But as always, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this beer review and there will be more to come from Brewdog, so subscribe to the channel if you are interested in that, and I'll catch you soon with another beer review. Cheers.